I'm Daniel Day, and I've just been promoted at Hawthorne Co., one of the most prestigious law firms in New York City. Although 25 is considered young, I'm one of the best legal directors the firm has on hand. That isn't just a result of talent or brown-nosing, though. It all comes from hard work. I've always wanted to work in law. It's been my dream from a young age. I worked hard to get accepted into one of the best law schools in the country, Harvard. While in college, I interned as a paralegal at Hawthorne Co. Being a lily-white intern, Hawthorne Co. was the best place for me to be. I learned about the ins and outs of working as a lawyer. Even better, my mentors were some of the best lawyers in the country. Not just because of their achievements, but because of their morals. I know people consider lawyers slimy jerks, and sometimes I find it to disagree. I've seen the dark side of this profession. However, I'm proud to say that Hawthorne Co. is a space that's principled and welcoming. I stood by that belief as a paralegal, and I stand by it today as a legal director. My time interning at Hawthorne Co. cemented it as a dream place to work for me. After I graduated, I began working at the firm and made my way through the ranks. Once I reached the position of senior legal associate, I got to work directly with Matthew Hawthorne. As one of the partners in the firm, Matthew was a legend in our circle. He had graduated from Yale and worked as a prosecution attorney in the early 2000s. Mr. Hawthorne wasn't just a grizzled veteran in the courtroom, the man was also a social kingpin. The creme de la creme of New York was on a first-name basis with him. Knicks players, past mayors, you name it. At first, I was intimidated by my boss and his stature, but I never let my work suffer. Although I was nervous about working with Mr. Hawthorne, I knew my work would speak for itself. Sure enough, I began to impress him with how I handled cases. At the same time, through late nights at the office and evening parties, I realized my boss wasn't as scary as I had initially thought. The guy was positively charming. Even though he had more money and power than the entire team of senior associates, he worked with the same hunger and drive as the best of us. I strove hard to impress Mr. Hawthorne without resorting to bootlicking. My other colleagues worked differently, though. They would do mediocre work and try to edge their way into the boss's good books through constant compliments. It didn't help that I was one of the youngest people at my level, so I always wondered whether my work was being recognized. One Monday morning, Mr. Hawthorne's secretary came to my desk and told me the boss wanted to speak to me personally. This was a rare occurrence in the office. It meant one of two things: either you were getting promoted or you were getting fired. In my case, it was neither, but it still threw me for a loop. "Hey Daniel, sit down, sit down." "Thank you, Mr. Hawthorne. How are you?" "I'm okay, but please, it's Matthew." "Okay, Matthew. That's better. Now listen, I called you in here because I have an opportunity for you. Well, maybe you can look at it as a favor, whatever you think." "What's that?" "My wife, Harriet, is throwing a charity gala this weekend at the Ritz. Unfortunately, it coincides with the monthly retreat I take with the other partners. Usually I wouldn't mind moving a few dates back and forth, but it's just not possible this time." "That's unfortunate. Forgive me for asking, Matthew, but where do I come in?" "I'm getting to that. Sheesh, young people these days. So impatient, am I right? Haha, I'm only joking. I've been observing your work, Daniel, and I like it. Simple, efficient. Your success rate is impressive for sure. But even better than that is the way you treat our clients." "Thank you, Matthew. My parents were embroiled in a legal case as a kid, and I know how stressful it can be for people and families. It's good that you work here for a reason beyond money, Daniel. We need people like you in leadership positions at Hawthorne Co. But that's a story for later. Right now I need to ask, would you be comfortable attending Harriet's charity gala? I won't be available. Neither will any of the partners. But I'd like a face from the company to be there." "Oh, I'd love to, Matthew. Absolutely no trouble for me." "Haha, thanks, kid. I'm sure you'll enjoy the event. A lot of celebrities and prominent personalities are there. Go rub shoulders with them, I'm sure it'll help you in some way or another." After Matthew waved me out of the room, I managed a poker face for 2 minutes. As soon as I returned to my office, I started to smile. It was the best opportunity of my career. Not only did Hawthorne trust me, but he also gave me a chance to speak with the most influential people in the city. I only had a few days to prepare for the gala. Without wasting any time, I began to prepare. I wanted to bring my A game. The first thing I did was go to Allen David Customs and get a new suit. Then, I read up on Mrs. Hawthorne's charity, It was a fund that ensured children with chronic illnesses in America had access to health care. After all my research, I thought it would be a good idea to speak to Mrs. Hawthorne in person. As noble as her cause was, I didn't know much about it, so I asked Mr. Hawthorne for her email address and told him about my intentions. Whoa, you're going above and beyond for this, huh? Most people would show up for the party, not for the charity. Yeah, I guess so, Matthew, but the website had a lot of interesting content and I want to learn more about how the charity operates. You're a good egg. Yeah, why not? I'll send you Harriet's email. She should get out of the house more. I'm busy with work, and well, she's a housewife. Although she has her book club and charity, sometimes I worry that she gets bored. All right, I'll speak to her. I'm a bit nervous about the gala. Ha ha ha. That's funny. Most people wouldn't be so candid with their boss. That's what I like about you, kid. Thank you, Matthew. Oh, and Daniel. One more thing. Yes. I hope you know why I chose you over some of the other associates for this. You have what it takes for the next level at Hawthorne Co. At least in my eyes, you do. But your work is going to be different when you move higher up. It's all about interacting with people, making connections, and navigating personalities. Consider the charity gala as a litmus test of sorts. I know you're nervous, but you must be a good face for our firm. That's all. If I was nervous before, I was positively shaking now. Mr. Hawthorne had, without coming out and saying it directly, implied that a promotion was within arm's reach. If I could impress his wife, it was more likely that I would move up the ladder. So, the lunch with Mrs. Hawthorne was a make-or-break situation. I went to meet her on Thursday, 3 days before the gala. The first thing that struck me about Mrs. Hawthorne was how jaw-droppingly beautiful she was. But it was almost an artificial kind of beauty, you know? Like the type of person whose face is so conventionally attractive that there isn't anything to remember. Of course, this was just my train of thought. I wouldn't say anything like that to her face. I introduced myself, and we got to chatting over drinks. By the time lunch was over, I had a much better idea about the charity, along with the social norms to follow during events like these. Mrs. Hawthorne was almost overbearingly friendly during the conversation, and she looked at me in a way that made me uncomfortable. It wasn't obvious, but it was definitely there. Well, Daniel, it was a pleasure to speak with you. Likewise, Harriet. I hope I'm good company during the event. Please reach out to me if you need anything. Oh, I will. I must say, Daniel, a strapping young man like you working as a lawyer, you must have a girlfriend or wife, no? Oh, nothing like that. I'm not that good with relationships, but I don't mind it. I like my work, and that's where I put in all my energy. I don't think I would be a good boyfriend right now, haha. Nothing casual either? Oh, no, Don't get so flustered. I'm just making conversation. I wanted to know whether you needed a +1 for the gala, that's all. Well, I'll see you on Sunday, Daniel. On my stroll back from lunch, I mulled over my interactions with Harriet Hawthorne. She was gorgeous and cultured, but something about her personality didn't sit right with me. I couldn't tell whether she was teasing me, or was she really flirting? Eventually, I decided it was harmless, and I needed to put up with it. Harriet was the housewife of a wealthy lawyer, after all. Maybe she just felt bored and didn't mean anything by it. I pushed the thought aside after a bit. I was worried about leaving a good impression on my boss's wife, but I was more concerned with putting my best foot forward for the gala. Despite everything that happened afterward, I will never forget the 12th of March, 2023. From the beginning, I knew it was poised to be out of this world. My car was in the shop, and Harriet picked me up near Central Park. She showed up in a Bentley. That was a level of fanciness I had never seen before. After we reached the Ritz, I began to mingle with the crowd. The event was understated yet extravagant, and I had to try my hardest not to gawk at all the celebrities casually walking around. Although nervous, I did a good job keeping up with the conversation. Some clients from Hawthorne Co. were at the gala, and I made sure to give them a good impression. Overall, I was happy with how things had gone down. Eventually, the main event was over. Harriet delivered a speech, and things started to wind down. To my surprise, Harriet then approached me, a tad bit tipsy. She told me there was an after-party of sorts, and she wanted me to come. I was pretty tired by then, but I also felt a sense of responsibility towards Harriet. More importantly, she was in no state to drive. Someone needed to drop her off after the after-party was over, right? I didn't realize it immediately, but I had been led into a trap. Nobody else was going to be at this after party, and it was just a ploy by my boss's wife to try and seduce me. So, Daniel, I was hoping you could come up with me to the luxury suite. I've booked a room there. Mrs. Hawthorne, isn't that too small a place to have an after party? If people get rowdy, I'm sure the management would say something. Shush, don't worry about it. Just come with me. As I was in the elevator with Mrs. Hawthorne, I was struck by the fact that nobody else was following us up to the suite. When we reached the room, it was intimately set up, and there was a bottle of champagne on ice. Without even asking Mrs. Hawthorne pushed me against a wall and tried to kiss me. I was shocked and let it happen for a moment. Then, naturally, I regained my senses and removed myself from her embrace. What's the matter, Daniel? This is wrong. I don't know what you're trying to do, but I don't think of you that way. Besides, I respect Mr. Hawthorne, please. Really, is that why you invited me to lunch and agreed to stay for the after party? Come on, you knew what I wanted. Don't play the fool now. I swear, there has been some miscommunication. Listen, I think you're a little drunk, Mrs. Hawthorne. It would help if you slept it off. Despite her advances, I eventually got Mrs. Hawthorne settled into bed. The whole situation left me a little frazzled. When she was finally asleep, I walked out of the room and went home by cab. I felt really upset about what had happened and was mortified to think about what Mr. Hawthorne would do if he found out. Even though Mrs. Hawthorne did fall into the stereotype of the bored housewife, I didn't think she was like this. The next morning, I went to work like normal. Within no time at all, my boss had called me into his office. I remember thinking this is either going to go really well or really badly as I stepped through the door. There he is. How was your first big event? It was nice. Just nice? Gee, I hope you were a little more eloquent around our clients. I would think so. I got a call from someone talking about you. They had nothing but good things to say. Oh, that's great to hear. What about Mrs. Hawthorne? I hope I was all right for her. Oh, Harriet told me that she was going to spend the night at the Ritz. She wanted to go over the charity gala in a late-night post-even meeting. My wife's a hard worker, there isn't any doubt about it. I see, Mr. Hawthorne. So she isn't back yet? No, but don't worry. I'm sure she would be gushing over you. Thanks for doing this favor for me, Daniel. It didn't go unnoticed. Having heard all these compliments from Mr. Hawthorne, I began to feel a little more at ease. Since his wife hadn't said anything about what had transpired last night, she might have forgotten about making a move on me. After all, she was really drunk. I went to work and had a positive mood the whole day. However, that evening I got the shock of my life, and my career was about to hang in the balance. After work, I went home and decided to put my feet up. While I was lounging on my couch, my phone pinged. I had gotten an email. I was surprised since my friends usually reached out to me on call. As for work, I wasn't expecting any emails late at night. I saw the ID. It was Harriet Hawthorne. There was an attachment and no text, and I opened it out of curiosity. I was shocked to see that it was an extremely risky picture. After I closed it, I saw that she had sent yet another email in the same thread. I read through it and felt sick to my stomach after I was done. It went, "Dear Daniel, I hope that you won't mind me reaching out to you through your email address. I never got your number and I didn't want to wait to talk to you. I know you think that I was being rash last night, but I want to tell you that it wasn't the liquor doing the talking. I want you to be with me. Please don't be afraid of Matthew. I have been with other men in the company and he's never found out. You're a smart, handsome man. I'm a powerful woman. I'm sure we can work out an arrangement that suits us both. If you're after money and a promotion, I can even put in a good word for you with Matthew. I know that this is all sudden, but I've fallen out of love with my husband. I don't want to leave him because I'm used to the lifestyle Matthew gives me. Besides, he's a very devoted man and loves me dearly. I cheat because it's exciting. Ever since we had lunch together, I've been thinking about you. I can't get you out of my mind. I've sent a picture of everything you're missing out on. I was hoping you could meet me next Saturday in the same room in the Ritz. 7 o'clock in the evening. I go under the alias of MS. Bernstein, ask for me at the reception. Daniel, I need you. Be there and I can make it worth your while. Love, Harriet. The audacity of sending such a bold and bare-faced email straight to my inbox rocked my whole perception of Harriet Hawthorne. I had gotten a glimpse of Mrs. Hawthorne's dark side when she made a move on me after the gala, but I didn't know about her true personality. The personality that lay beneath the classy and sophisticated socialite. Honestly, I was disgusted with the way she casually spoke about having an affair with me. The way she spoke about the whole thing made it seem transactional and corrupt. I was mortified. I was too overwhelmed to even think about writing a response to her. Instead, I decided that the best thing to do would be to try and ignore the email. Hopefully Mrs. Hawthorne would get the hint and understand that I wasn't the kind of person who was okay with being an affair partner. That was on Monday evening, right after the charity gala that had got me in this mess. After I decided to ignore the first email, Mrs. Hawthorne sent a few more pictures with increasingly lewd writing. I didn't even bother opening them. But something worse was digging at me, hiding all of this from my boss. I felt terrible keeping the secret about Mr. Hawthorne's wife. He was extremely chipper and friendly with me after the gala, and I could barely keep up an act. I couldn't pretend everything was normal. What made it worse was that Mr. Hawthorne began to be more casual around me. I guess he was ready to see me as being closer to an equal, instead of just an employee. Because of that, I could really see how much he loved his wife. He would constantly talk about how happy he was that Harriet was enjoying her work with the charity. He would go on and on about how he was going to use his time off to go on a vacation with his wife. How could I tell him that his wife was hell-bent on trying to get with me? The guilt was eating me up, and I was acting cagey that entire week. My colleagues and friends were commenting on my lack of focus. I was barely getting any sleep, and every new notification on my phone made me feel nervous. I didn't know who to confide in, and it was just me and my thoughts, grappling with what to do. After a lot of thinking, I realized that the only thing that would help me would be coming clean. Sure, Mr. Hawthorne might be livid. My promotion could possibly go down the drain, but I would rest easy knowing that I did the right thing. I didn't even consider replying to Mrs. Hawthorne and taking her up on the offer she was making me. I knew that it would make life easy for me, but I just wasn't looking for an easy way out of this situation. Friday morning was when I walked into Mr. Hawthorne's office, determined to make things right. However, everything went awry when I saw who was sitting in the office with him, his wife. The man himself. "Come in, Daniel, come in." Harriet had just come by, so I guess you could say the timing is really good, huh? "Hi, Daniel. I hope you've been keeping well?" I have. I hope you're doing well too, Mrs. Hawthorne." "Keep it brief, my man, and tell me what you want to talk to me about." Oh, it can wait. I didn't mean to intrude. Matthew, what I need to speak to you about ... Could we do it in private, please? Sure thing. I hope everything is all right? Yes, I just need to get something off my chest. As I stumbled my way out of Matthew's office, I realized that I had screwed up massively. Harriet had been looking at me with hawk eyes, and I was certain she knew what I wanted to talk to her husband about. With her infidelity about to come out into the light, I was worried that she would do or say something irreversible. I was proven right. At the end of the workday, Matthew called me into his office. Without any ceremony, he told me that he knew everything and wanted me out of the office by tomorrow. Only when I stood my ground and asked for more details did I realize that Harriet had sold him a massive lie. "I'm going to make sure you don't work in any reputable law firm in the Eastern Seaboard. I took you under my wing because I thought you were different. You had principles, morals, and a sense of what was right and wrong. I was sorely mistaken. No upstanding man tries to flirt with someone else's wife. There's no excuse for it." "Matthew, I'm sorry, but wait, what? Me? Flirting with her? No, it's just not true. Harriet tried to seduce me, but I didn't do anything, I swear." "You expect me to believe you over my wife? Huh? That's the stupidest thing I've heard, Daniel. Do you even have any proof for this wild claim?" For a moment, my brain froze. I couldn't think of how to prove my innocence. Then, it struck me the emails that Harriet had sent me. "I hate to tell you this, Matthew, but your wife has been sending me emails on my work account. They've been horribly flirtatious and I haven't replied to a single one. Please, I'll show you my inbox." I pulled my phone out of my pocket and frantically began to search for the email thread. It was gone. I checked my recycle bin and all my other folders in the hopes of finding it. I didn't know how she had done it, but I was certain that Harriet had tampered with my email. However, this wasn't something that Matthew was going to believe. After all, his wife had got to him with her version of the story first. I couldn't believe that she had the guts to say that I was the one flirting with her. Since I couldn't convince Matthew, there was no hope. He fired me without a second thought, and I went home with a pit in my stomach. My only real proof lay in the email, and now it was gone. For 2 days, I simply stayed at home and did nothing. My career was in shambles because of one woman and her desire to keep duping her husband. I was at home feeling pity for myself when I suddenly remembered something that would help me prove my innocence: the pictures. Even though Harriet's saucy email thread, along with the pictures, had been removed from my inbox, there was one thing she didn't account for: die and autosave. Our company has a custom script that automatically downloads all the attachments from emails onto the laptop's hard disk. Sure enough, when I checked the folder on the date of the email, I saw that there was a picture sent from Harriet. The metadata even ensured that it wasn't photoshopped or anything like that. I had my first big piece of evidence. Part of me wanted to forward that email to Matthew immediately, but I decided that it wasn't going to be enough. I wanted to get back at Harriet. I had a hunch that she used that room at the Ritz for all her shady hookups. With that in mind, I hired a PI to scope Harriet out and collect evidence of her adultery. It was dead simple, surprisingly. Due to how trusting and doting Matthew was with his wife, she often just used charity work as an excuse to go meet men. Within a few weeks, I had pictures and evidence of Harriet's affairs. She met 5 different men during the time my investigator was on the job. Interestingly, his work also solved another piece of the puzzle: just how exactly my private email address was hacked into. One of the men she was sleeping with, as shown in the pictures, was another associate at Hawthorne Co., Roger Sullivan. She must have goaded him into doing her dirty work. When I wasn't paying attention, Roger must have snuck into my office and deleted the email. After all this, I finally had enough proof to approach Matthew. I turned up at the front office of Hawthorne Co., dressed in sweatpants and carrying a huge file with me. However, getting access to the office and to Matthew wasn't as easy as I thought. The receptionist refused to let me in due to standing orders from the boss. I later found out this was because Harriet had told him that I was behaving like a stalker. There was no way for me to make my way up to Matthew without causing a scene, so I decided to do the next best thing. I sat in the lobby and drafted an email to my boss and CC'd his wife. I wasn't bitter or spiteful, but I calmly explained what had happened and also attached all the proof that I had. I then told him that I was waiting downstairs in the lobby. Within an hour, Matthew came down to talk to me. His face was pale and he looked like he was going to be sick. I followed him into his office and truthfully told him about everything that had gone down. From the first lunch with Harriet to my discovery of how the emails were deleted, everything was now in plain sight for my boss to see. I honestly didn't know how he would react, but to my surprise, he seemed really calm. "Daniel, this is a lot to take in. I need to mull over my next course of action, but first things first, I'm sorry." "What do you mean?" "I didn't take you at your word and caused you a lot of trouble. I wasn't thinking rationally, and I let my emotions get the better of me. I see now that Harriet has been taking advantage of that trait of mine for a long time. If you feel like you're up for it, would you like your old job back? Actually, scratch that. Would you like to be a legal director at Hawthorne Co.? This is the position I was considering you for." The only other person in my mind was Roger, because Harriet kept telling me how impressed she was with his work. Of course, now I know what she meant. "Yes, I would. But I hope that you are going to do something about Harriet, right?" "Oh, believe me, she's going to find out just how painful it is to divorce a lawyer." As I was leaving the office, I walked into guess who? Yep, Harriet herself, in the flesh. I suppose she had just seen the email I had tagged her in and was rushing to the office to come up with her next batch of lies and emotional manipulation. But it was too late for her. Just as suddenly as my life was turned upside down, it was all well again. Matthew wasn't kidding when he said that it was going to be painful to divorce a lawyer. Even though he was really hurting, Matthew chose to channel it all into revenge. Harriet was effectively penniless after he was done with her. Roger was fired, to nobody's surprise. I was given an amazing new job, and things between me and my boss are back to how they were. Although there was quite a lot of hushed gossip around Matthew's divorce, both in our office and in other social circles, everyone sided with him. Although I can say all's well that ends well, I'm still really disturbed by how Harriet treated me. She was willing to ruin my whole life to hide her own terrible personality and actions. Even if I win 100 more cases, the most important thing I will ever do is prove my innocence to Matthew. In a way, I saved my hide and his too. If it wasn't for the investigation I pulled off, my boss would never see past his blind love for his wife. I suppose that things are going to be better from now on for him too. I'm trying to focus purely on work for now, and it's going well for me.